So I don't have a beer, I have some wine. This is still a beer time, but I'm actually drinking more wine because it's Christmas. I've also got a motherfucking badass jumper, Christmas jumper, 3D. Primark special. Yes, I am wearing jogging bottoms. I don't even care. Get mad, bro. It's yeah, I'm just chilling. I've actually got a free house, so brew time will be me doing making a cup of tea and going from start to finish. There's a bit of a Christmas kind of special. And this room is echoey as hell. This just isn't working at all, is it? No. Ah, that's better. Right. Yeah, I decided that actually doing it in the front room was not a good idea because it's far too echoey in there and it's just bland. There's nothing in the background. And as much as there's a bit of a mess in behind me, it's interesting. It's not boring and pointless like the one in the front room. So yes, I am drinking mulled wine. Sainsbury's special. It was something like £2.50, which is ridiculously cheap. Considering it was a £5 a bottle, I think, not too long ago. And obviously they're trying to get rid of. They seem to trying to get rid of their Christmas stock really, really early now. But even likes of Sainsbury's are getting rid of their stock ridiculously early. And I did manage to pop into M&S today and go and grab some wrapping paper and other shiz that I still needed. But yeah, I was gonna buy some beer, but the beer that I quite fancied having was some red beer from M&S. It sounds very snobby, but actually it is fucking amazing. But it's a £5 a bottle, and it's like 750ml worth of beer. And with the best and will in the world, I can't polish off in all in one sitting. And with beer, you kind of do. You can't just leave beer just festering. Wine's a little bit different, especially this one because it's cheap. And they've, mulled wine's pretty cool. It might be a little bit homosexual, but I don't really even give a flying what's it. So really, the only what I thought I would talk about is, I suppose my week perhaps within IT. How the YouTube's moving forwards, how the channel's moving forwards, and pretty much getting into IT as a general thing. I've covered it in the past, and it's been quite. I think it was quite popular when I discussed it before. There you go. I'm gonna have to take this jumper off and change into something else because I'm absolutely roasting buckets here. That's better. Back to the vest. I don't really care because it's been one of those weeks. It's been one of those days. It's far too hot in that acrylic jumper. It's a Primark special, you see, so it's just ridiculously cheap. And yeah, getting on the demand clothing hype. Makes really sweet stuff. Go and check their shit out, by the way. But I'm not sponsored by them. No. Right. Well, so seeing as I'm bumbling, so yeah. So what happened this week? So we had a. So I'm going to tell you a story about something that happened. So we had this email come into... No, I lie. We had a few students, because I work for a university, we had a few students that had an email from some London university stating that they had a username and password and to click a link and to get it reset. So it sort of included a username and a password and a link to... and then just a link. And pretty much all my colleagues that were in the office said, "Oh, that's malicious," and it's it's a virus. It's trying to gain your details. It's a phishing scam, all other crap. And I turned around to them and said, "No, it isn't. It looks to me as though it might have been sent in error. It looks to me as though it isn't. I mean." Fair enough, the people that are getting the emails didn't expect the email, but it doesn't really look like it's malicious. The reason why I didn't think it was malicious was because the end part of the URL ended in the name of the university, which I'm not going to say, .ac.uk, and the beginning part was, a load of random letters and the word test in there, and a few forward slashes at the end. So to me, it looked like it was a genuine server because it was hosted in an educational environment. It was a .acuc address, so that means that it's probably registered. And actually, when you hover over the address, it actually was pointing to that address. It wasn't pointing to another address. The usernames were genuine usernames. They were the kind of usernames you'd expect for the students who were emailing in. And the passwords were, just random passwords as you'd expect. And it was from one guy at London University who was sending it out. So it was, although, the users weren't expecting an email like this, it looked reasonably genuine to me. I mean, there was a few grammar mistakes, but that was that. So I was basically shouted down by everybody else in the office, no. And I said, I've clicked on the link, and everybody went nuts and said, you did what? You clicked on the link? And bumbled around. And I was like, yeah, but nothing happened because it didn't go anywhere. So that happened. And then an hour later, one of the project managers comes in and says, oh, by the way, one of the partners that we're hosting our new VLE, so virtual learning environment with, have decided to send out a load of emails by accident. So they ended up sending, I think it was 21,000 emails to 21,000 students. Well, there might not have been that many. I think it might have been 7,000 students they managed to end up sending it to. And funnily enough, I was right, because, obviously the email was not supposed to go out, but it was a genuine email, and basically they were just testing the system to make sure that it would work, but as opposed to unchecking a box that basically said, don't actually send the email, just pretend you've sent the email, it didn't, it kind of caused a bit of confusion, but yeah, I was quite, well, not annoyed, I was more worried that the fact that my colleagues didn't really recognise what the difference between a phishing scam was, a genuine URL was, and all these other bits and pieces, because sometimes things are hosted on a .ac.uk thing by, some malicious programs decided it's going to host something on some server somewhere, and nobody's none the wiser. That sometimes does happen, but the combination of things, poor grammar, and yes, it was going to users who didn't expect to get the email, but even so, it looked genuine enough to me, and it was just like, it just was kind of a little bit flabbergasted that A, nobody told us until an hour after it happened, and B, none of my colleagues picked up on the fact that actually it did look like it was a test thing, considering in the actual domain, or in the domain name itself, not domain name, in the URL itself, it had the word test in there, which suggests to me that maybe that's a test server. But there you go. I'm just thinking what else happened. I had free beer at work today. Pretty much everybody's leaving for this week, so after today, everybody's mostly gone. But I and some of my other colleagues are working until Christmas Eve, until 5 o'clock Christmas Eve, for no real apparent reason, other than they don't really want to pay us holiday leave and stuff like that. So they thought they'd keep us in, and we're probably not going to do any work whatsoever, especially Christmas Eve. So I've bought some crackers and other bits and pieces for my colleagues, and we'll probably have quite a merry time. We've got work Christmas due this Saturday as well, so I'm currently recording this on the Friday night, and I don't know when it's going to go up. So I'll have to do a brew time Sunday, I guess. So that's kind of that, I guess. And then I thought I'd move on to what's happening with YouTube and things like that for a minute, because I thought I'd discuss it. People keep giving me options and ideas and all this other stuff. So as it currently stands at the moment, I'm not going to do any technical or reviewy kind of stuff until after Christmas, until in the new year. Basically because I don't have time. I'm actually in Plymouth until the 24th, and then I go back to my parents' place. So after I've come home, I've gone to work, I come home from work, and I'm then going to go down to my parents' place. I'll spend Christmas Day there, from Christmas Day all the way till New Year's Day, and then I'll come back up here after that. So there won't be a brew. No, there might not be a brew time on there might not be a brew time in the new year when we get straight back. It either might be later on in the week, or I might just skip it for a week, because I'll be travelling, I'll be so busy, and say, like, this weekend I've got work to do Saturday, Sunday I've got to pack, and I've got to clean the house, and I've got loads of other bits and pieces to do. I've got to wrap presents. Monday I'm then working, and in the evening I probably then have to worry about packing a bag so I can go home. Tuesday then I'm going back down to Cornwall, so I'm not going to bother recording anything because the lighting setup at my parents' place is shit. I'm not going to take a bowl with me. It's going to be too noisy. I'm going to be so tired, and it's just going to be, I just want to have a bit of time off to chill out, relax over the Christmas period. I'll be off for a week, and I come back revised, refreshed, everything like that, and then I'm going to try and create some more technical videos, especially with my IP Firebox, which I've been playing with loads, and I really love it. I've got the IP Fire Eco, and it's effing brilliant. I really love it. Even from a personal standpoint and from a home user standpoint, it's a brilliant I'll put the link in the description below of what the IP Fire Eco is. It's a 600 quid device, and it's designed for small to medium businesses, really more small businesses, for about 25 users, and it does loads of really funky stuff, and it's just quiet, and it's just really great. And what I'll do is I'll do a review of it in the new year, and I'll do a load of technical stuff in the new year as well. There's something else somebody else wanted me to do. They wanted me to do some tours of stuff, so I might do a proper tour, like an hour's tour of IP Fire. I might try and get some of the IP Fire guys involved, or one of the IP Fire guys involved, maybe Michael Tremor again from the project, maybe get him in a Skype call, maybe we'll just talk about the IP Fire project a little bit more and go from there. Maybe we'll do a bit of a tour, because that would be quite helpful. I think a lot of people would quite like that. So yeah, so as it stands, that's currently how it's going to go. I've still got work until the end of January now, so my contract's been extended, which is good. And on the positive side as well, my monetization seems to be going up and up. Not, we're not talking triple figures or anything like that just yet, but they're going up to the extent that I probably will be in triple figures not very, pretty soon. Now, usually I wouldn't mention it, because it's just, triple figures is nothing. When you actually work for a living, you realise that actually triple figures is literally pennies. But in terms of YouTube, that's really not bad. And so the reason I mention it is because it could spiral an upwards trend of me then earning enough from this to do it full time. Which I don't think is going to happen. I'm not going to hold out for it, and I certainly don't think it's going to happen. But it might do, and I'm quite excited about that. So, thanks for the great support and everything else. And I think some of the stuff I've created really well, I'll say recently, the most recent kind of generic stuff I've done, so to do with Astro A40s and stuff, has been very, very popular, and that's why it's kind of that's kind of where a lot of the monetization's gone, things like that. So especially the Astro videos, the Razor videos, which people seem to really like as well. And when I upload a video, I get like 250 views at least, which is great, because I didn't before. So what I then wanted to do is then go on to get a job on IT, and then this will make the video like half an hour long, and you'll probably want to switch off. So there's quite a few people on Twitter who are looking for jobs, and they want to get into IT and all this other stuff, and they know where they want to go within IT, and the hurdle they keep hitting all the time is experience, because IT is kind of one of those kind of areas where, yeah, you can have some qualifications, but realistically you need the experience, especially if you're going behind the scenes, if you're doing third line stuff, if you're doing development work. You do need experience, because if you don't have experience, you will make stupid mistakes and this, that, and the other. And to a lesser extent, you need experience for first and second line stuff. So working on a service desk, working as somebody that goes out and about fixing PCs, and the same with the hardware side as well. You don't need as much experience, because a lot of the experience you get is on the job, and it doesn't matter so much, because it's a one-to-one customer, like one customer at a time, as opposed to you affecting essentially an entire system. Now I'm talking about this from an enterprise kind of a level, so we're talking 10,000 users plus, that kind of level. Well, 5,000 users plus, I guess, really is enterprise level. And when you get to that level, you do need the experience. When you're looking at the well, even like the small to medium business or small to medium enterprise level, in terms of the experience, I think they're less so bothered by the experience, because they can get somebody in like an apprentice, quote unquote, not a modern apprentice, but like an old school apprentice, pay them minimum wage, so they get 13k a year, whatever it is now, and train them up so they can be a proper IT tech. Now, the difference between because this is the other thing that a lot of people don't realise, and probably will never realise until they actually get a job, is how different things are when you learn it. So if you've done a degree in it and then you actually go and do it, it's completely different. And when you've come from I know everything about computers and I can fix stuff, and I fix my family's PC and all this other stuff, and I'm really involved with IT that kind of way, and you're really interested in PCs and computers, you seriously have not got a clue about what IT is about. And this isn't like an insult to you, it's just the way it is. The way schools teach, computing and IT, and it's the same with universities as well. They don't actually teach you anything really in terms of the actual skill set, in terms of customer service, which is a big part of it. They don't teach you any of this, necessarily some of the soft skills, and a lot of the hard skills as well, which are mostly on the job and Googling stuff and being patient with customers and things like that. And until you work within that area, you have no idea about anything to do with IT. And it might sound harsh, and you might think, well, Aaron's a dickhead, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I've been in IT now for about 4 years. Now, within those 4 years, I've spent 2 years at one place, pretty much dedicated to IT. For about 6 months, I was doing external relations and social media stuff. But pretty much, for 2 years I've been working at one institution, and I've been doing, I was doing IT before. I helped deploy Windows 7, and then I was jobless, and then I did social media stuff, and then I came back and did first line, second line IT support for a big enterprise, for a university. And before that, I worked for the university that I was actually a student at, which was UCP Marjon, which is now called the University of Marjon, or the University of Mark and St John. So they're an official university. They were a university college, and now they turned into a proper university because of the way that the government's redefined what a university can be. And the experience I got there was probably the most valuable I've ever had. I mean, not in terms of enterprise stuff, because you compare small to medium businesses to enterprise level IT, it's completely different. And with the experience I gained there, that got me the job at my current place of work. Not to mention the fact that there was I had a person that I knew personally through the degree I did, and because of that, he managed to get me a job in my current place, and that's kind of how I managed to get involved with the whole thing in the first place. And the problem that a lot of people are having and will have is getting the experience in the first place. And the only way of getting the experience in the first place, apart from actually getting a paid job, which you can't get because you have to have the experience in the first place, is pretty much volunteering. If you've got no other way, you've got no contacts you can rely on and all this, and you don't know any other way of getting the experience and getting involved with IT, volunteer. And we're not talking about voluntary for 6 months or for a month or 2 months. We're talking voluntary work for at least a year. We're talking about internships, maybe unpaid internships for about a year. And you need that. Unless you know somebody within the industry that can get you the foot in the door, there's not really any way. Especially if you come straight out of uni and you just have a degree, there's no way. You could have CCNA, you could have Microsoft certification, you could have all the stuff, and it might look good to some manager somewhere maybe, but in reality, no one's going to employ you because you need at least 2 years worth of IT experience, if not more, to actually get anywhere. Even on first and second line stuff. I mean, yeah, any old buddy can really do it. It's not difficult. Kind of learn as you go. You do need to have a technical mind, but realistically, first and second line stuff doesn't matter so much. It's only going to really affect one user. It's not going to affect loads of people. Whereas if you're doing development work, that and sort of back end stuff, networking on a huge scale, it matters a lot because you're talking about tens of thousands of users. You're not just talking about one. So there's that. The gaining experience is always the key thing. But not only that, it's actually realizing what IT is about, because the trouble I find with what the fuck is that noise? It would appear someone's blown a whistle outside, like some sort of joker. But yeah, one of the things that well, actually not one of the things. It's one of the things. One of the things that pretty much everybody that wants to get into IT fails to realise is their users, and this is a problem across IT as a whole. It's not. I don't think it's as prevalent as it used to be, but it kind of is, and that's dealing with users with disdain and making things difficult for your users and your customers, slagging them off, and generally just not talking to their level and that kind of stuff. So, and I know I've mentioned this before because it's just one of those things that I kind of want people to get out of the habit of. I want people to kind of move beyond it and actually think about their customers in a better way. So, all users are stupid as fuck anyway. I mean, I'm going to say that. All users are stupid and they're incompetent and they haven't got a clue what they're doing and they lie and they're just awful people. But the trouble is, you kind of work for them. I mean, if you work for a company that, you will work for the same company, then fair enough. But they essentially are your customers, and without them, IT wouldn't exist. And so, as much as they're a pain in the ass, as much as they're stupid, as much as they lose things, and as much as they think they know best, you've kind of got to take that kind of approach with everything you plan in IT. So, if we're talking about, for instance, password change tools, here's a prime example of where IT don't think about anybody but themselves. So, password change tools are pretty easy things to sort out. They should be straightforward. You should be able to access a password change tool anywhere in the world. You should be able to answer a couple of security questions, or for it to be sent to maybe a third-party email address, for instance. So you can reset your password, and so that then there's no intervention from IT. That's what should happen. But increasingly, what I find is that, especially at the institution that I work at, is that the password change tool is crap. And more often than not, users have problems with it. And it doesn't give them specific error messages. It doesn't tell them what they've done wrong. It locks them out of their account for seemingly no reason at all. And the only reason it's such a pain in the ass to use is because somebody's not thought about it and thought, oh, let's actually make it easy for users. They thought, I'm going to throw this together really quickly in the simplest way I possibly can, and I'll just hope it works. And that's kind of what happened. And I'm not, this isn't just the institution that I work for. This is other places as well. Other places I've worked. Where I worked previously, they changed the password change tool, and it got a lot better. To the extent that there was no intervention from IT at all. We could still intervene if we needed to, but to be honest, we never did. Passwords are pretty much probably the most common question we get asked about all the time. About, oh, I forgot my password, it's not letting me log in, it's not letting me change it, all that other stuff. And all because somebody can't be bothered to either design a system that works well and that's easy to use, or not just subcontract someone else to do it, or just buy a piece of off-the-shelf software. Because passwords and all that other stuff are based on Active Directory anyway. And so you pretty much have got a whole plethora of choice in terms of what Active Directory add-ins you can use to manage your passwords. And it's really easy. It's a piece of cake. All you need to do is just a couple of installs and you're done. It's a piece of piss to do. And I know some people have their own proprietary systems and it might be a bit of a pain, but if everything's linked through AD anyway, all it's going to do is it's going to change the passwords within AD. It's not going to do anything else. It's going to have a separate store for other bits and pieces for credentials and stuff, and it'll store it in a way that IT means that IT can't see it, even if they had all the rights to. They just could not see it. They can't see it at all, and that's kind of what you want. But that's the trouble. Not a lot. The majority, I would say, of IT treat users they don't necessarily treat them stupid to their face, but they'll kind of patronise them a lot, and they won't necessarily give helpful advice. They'll say something in stupid technical languages that nobody but IT people will understand. And it's all about being patient with users and taking the time with them and giving them a bit of education along the way. Because yes, users probably should have a certain level of digital literacy, but the fact of the matter is they don't, and they won't, and there's no way of actually improving that unless you actually tell it to them. You drill it home to them, give them a few, extra bits of advice as you go along, and try and drill it into them. And if they really are a pain in the ass and they're really getting angry with you, then you just don't deal with them. You put the phone down, you just say, I'm sorry, you're not dealing with me in a manner that I feel as though is professional and is courteous. So just, you're on your own. I think I've only ever done that once, I lie. Once at my current place of employment and twice at my previous place of employment, where I basically told somebody to piss off. Not in so many words. I put the phone down on somebody once, some German bloke. I almost put the phone down on a few other people who decided they were going to be far too rude. And I've also almost walked out of offices before when people have been unnecessarily rude. But it does take a lot of restraint, because the trouble is, a lot of times, it's not necessarily as much as they're getting shitty with you and they really shouldn't. They're understandably frustrated a lot of times because there's a system that they use that's not working properly, and it may take some time for that to get fixed. And because they feel powerless, they've got nothing to do, and they feel as though IT aren't doing any work. And in actual fact, the reality is we're doing a lot of work, behind the scenes that people don't even realise that we do. And unless you actually work in IT, and you know, especially from an enterprise level, unless you work in IT and you've worked in IT for, at least a year, 2 years, you have no idea as to the extent of what IT does in terms of its policies, in terms of its procedures, and in terms of the stupid questions you get asked. You can write a frequently asked questions list that includes non-frequently asked questions. You could write as many policy documents as you want that included every single thing that anybody in the entire, department, the entire team has ever dealt with before, and you can guarantee somebody rock up with something that's never been dealt with before, and it's really difficult and really confusing, and they want it done now. They don't want it doing tomorrow or next week. They want it doing within an hour, and you've then got to try and figure out how the fuck you're supposed to do it. Prime example is, will you fuck off? My iPad's going bloody nuts. Piss off. I should have bloody muted it, I guess. But one prime example of this was this week. And actually, it was last week. We've got student information screens, which basically display student information, funnily enough. Got them all around campus, and they kind of link up together. And you plug, we've got a load of PCs that kind of just plug into them. They're like small form factor PCs, really tiny things, like SoC kind of ones. I think they're running Atom. I think they're Intel Atom based machines. But basically all they do is they output like an image to a TV, and we got a load of them dotted around the place, and they kind of just display student information, and people can put adverts on there if they really want to. And it's quite a good little system. Bit of a mess, but there you go. So I had to re-image a machine that had broken for whatever reason. It needed a re-image. So I tried to re-image it, and I couldn't. Basically, it was another team that used to do the re-imaging. Then it came to first and second line to do it, and we had some instructions. The instruction didn't work, and I was waiting. It took me an entire week to image this machine. I tried all sorts of stuff. I went through to my third line colleague, who then added the MAC address into our SCCM client. Still didn't work, and finding out about this, that, and the other, and finally managed to get it sorted today. Got it imaged, got it set up. But bloody hell, that was ridiculous. And the user wanted it pretty much they wanted it on the Friday they gave it to us, which was last Friday. And finally, like a week later, we managed to do it. But the funny thing was, they've not contacted us. And this happens a lot. Like, somebody will ring up and say, oh, this is ridiculously urgent. And then they'll say, oh, yeah, but they'll ring up and say, like, 1 o'clock and say, oh, I've got a ridiculously urgent thing. It needs to be sorted now. And you'll say, well, I'm afraid we can't get around to you right this very second. And they said, well, I need to be able to do it now, because if you don't do it now, then I'm away for Christmas until, like, the 16th of January. And you were like, so it obviously isn't that important then. If it's not that urgent for you to stay around so that we can actually sort the issue out for you. And that happens a lot. And a lot of times someone will say, oh, there's an urgent request, and then go piss off on leave somewhere. You're like, well, it's not urgent because we can't access your machine because you've got it, or we need you to log in. And that happens a lot. And it's IT's interesting. We'll put it that way. IT's very interesting, and it takes a lot of restraint. It's more about customer service and managing expectations and stuff like that than it is really IT skills. Somebody's probably going to accelerate more with better customer service skills, especially in first and second line, than they are with actual hard skills. It does help to have a lot of skills. Most of the stuff you pick up on the job, and as long as you've got as long as you can figure out how to figure it out, then it's fine. There's lots of stuff I don't know anything about, but if I Google it and I try and find out what the problem is, I can overcome it. So yeah, I guess that's probably all I've got to say on IT, I guess. I mean, I didn't want to bang on too much about it, because someone was saying, don't necessarily cover your work all the time. And I don't really want to do that. It's just kind of, it's not really anything to talk about apart from Christmas. And like, it was just, I don't really know what to say about Christmas. And if I don't talk about anything else, it's going to be really short. And I want Beer Time to be about half an hour long. That's kind of where I want to go with it. So I think that's pretty much all I've got to say on the matter. If you want any advice or guidance on getting into IT, I don't want to try and brag and say that I'm, LG Pro at IT, but I have a job in it, and I kind of think I know what I'm talking about. And so if you want any advice on it, especially if you're looking in the UK and the US and even on the continent, just send me an email, azzychill@gmail.com, and I'll try and answer it as best I can. Hit me up on Twitter at azzychill as well. I'm also on Instagram and all these other, various social media places as azzychill. All the important places you need to find me anyway. And I think that's pretty much it. I'm fucking tired and I can't wait to actually get to bed because it's now currently 2 minutes past 10 on Friday evening, and I barely touched this glass of wine. It's bloody good mulled wine though. It's actually not warm. It's essentially mulled wine. Pretty good considering it was just in the shop bought sort of stuff. So that's pretty much it. Like I said, email me, send me tweets. I don't know, I was going to say send me an Instagram direct message, and I was like, no, don't do that because it'll be something horrendous. So that's pretty much it. I shall catch you in a later video.